Everybody is asking me, Medina, please make a guide on what do you do at level 60. And the reason I haven't done it yet is because I cannot find a way to make it interesting that isn't 30 seconds. Because if I am honest to you, what you gotta do at level 60 is farm Ubrs. That's it. Thank you. See you in TVC. No, for real. For real. You gotta farm Ubrs and that's pretty much all you freaking do all day. Why would a warrior need to farm only one dungeon for the rest of his life? Well, Ubers is the most dense loot for warriors in the game. It has almost every single one of your best in slot items, about 50% of them actually. On top of that, it is related to your Onyxia attunement. You gotta clear it. There is a lot of quest items that are amazing, and there is a precursor, the lower Blackrock Spire, that you also need to grind for separate reasons. Well, first of all, let me explain. You hit level 58, not 60, because the real pre-raid best in slot, it starts before level 60. You go to the Blackrock Spire. Now, you need a key to open Ubers. There is a quest in here. You start doing lower Blackrock Spire. That's the 5-man easy dungeon. In lower Blackrock Spire, you're gonna kill random trash mobs and you're gonna get this little item, and it starts a little bit of a quest line that is a pain in the butt. You gotta talk to like an NPC that is inside of LBRS and whatnot, but eventually you get a quest from that guy. This guy in LBRS, he's like a homeless guy, like a squatter, and he's gonna tell you to get 3 gemstones, and these 3 gemstones, you combine them and then you do a super annoying quest and you get the key to do Upper Blackrock Spire. And if you're gonna farm Upper Blackrock Spire, I heavily recommend you actually farm it. Also, it drops a ring that it has fire resistance on it, which is kinda cool if you're a tank or something. But anyway, you need these 3 gems to actually make the key to start farming Upper Blackrock Spire, which is the 10-man version of the raid. You need these 3 gems to start doing Upper Blackrock Spire, which is the 10-man part of the dungeon there is, and they each drop from a different boss. Now, do not be fooled by that this drop rating here, it says 100%. It is not. That's a lie. It is a bold-faced lie. I do not know what the actual drop rate is, but it is not very high. So you're gonna have to do lower Blackrock Spire for an eternity. That is not a problem, however, because lower Blackrock Spire also has a lot of really important items for you. The most important is a ranged weapon. This right here, the Black Crow, it is the best in slot bow in the game. 1% hit, 3 agility. There is one in Dire Maul that is 3 agility better, but if you got this, you are pretty much best in slot. Do not even wonder about it. This thing is gonna last you all the way through tier 1. It is amazing, so you gotta get it anyway. You might as well farm the key and this thing. There is also these pretty cool gloves you can get if you're a tank. 1% crit and 15 stamina. And there is also some decent boots, so there is a little bit for everybody. These are pretty good. They are not quite the Valor ones, but almost right there. You know, if you get it, might as well. So you are gonna be in lower Blackrock Spire for a long time. You need 3 drops from 3 separate bosses, and then after that you gotta go do your pre-quest and whatnot, and then you go mind control a dragon, and the dragon blows a flame or something, yada yada yada. 20 years later, you get the quest done. Why do we do so much Ubers? All we do for this guy. This is Rend Blackhand. He's a boss in the middle of Blackrock Spire, and this guy is pretty much the boss that every single melee in the game wants to get. Be it rogue, be it warrior, be it even red paladins or shamans. You know, I think they exist. This guy alone is responsible for like 4 best in slot items. Now, the most famous item that Rend will drop is, of course, the Dal Rends. He got 2 swords right here. One of them is a slow main hander that does pretty good damage and has 1% crit. And the other one is an off-hander that is fast, it has armor, and it has defense. Now, these are usually not considered the best in slot swords in the game, but they are almost as good, and any warrior is going to be very happy to have both of them. So you are going to see these 2 swords pretty much everywhere. However, I would say the Dal Rends are not even close to being the main loot. These bracers, 1% hit, 1% crit, they are going to be the best in slot for every warrior in the game, pretty much for until tier 1, until you do Molten Core, and you get the, what's the name of those bracers they drop from Domo, I think. It doesn't matter, these things are pretty much freaking perfect. No matter your spec, you're gonna want these bracers right here. Then of course the eye patch, the very iconic iconic eye patch from Rend. It is leather, but it has 2% crit and 13 strength on it. So it is gonna be best in slot for rogues, and it is gonna be best in slot for warriors. DPS warriors. For tank warriors, I recommend the Crown of Tyranny. That's from, I think it's a Stratholm, I don't remember. But this is an amazing item, and everybody's gonna want it. Then you also got the Shoulders of Valor. Now the Shoulders of Valor are very popular and you're gonna see them everywhere, but they are not best in slot for a lot of people. They are only best in slot for people that got a weapon racial, because if you do not, you're gonna need that hit from True Strike, which ironically also drops from Ubrs. These shoulders drop from the first boss in Ubrs, a Pyro Garden Berserker. They got 2% hit and 24 attack power, and they are freaking amazing. So if you need that 9% hit chance, or if you are a rogue, every freaking rogue uses these ones. But of course, if you already have your hit cap, because there is some hit gear that you can get over the hit cap if you get a weapon racial, most likely you are not gonna get a 9% hit before Molten Core if you are a race that doesn't have a racial, just because it is a lot of work. But you should keep these shoulders in your back just in case. They are really good. And then of course, how could I talk about Ubrs without my fantastically favorite, the Fell Striker. The Fell Striker is, in my opinion, the best tanking weapon in the game until you go to Molten Core, and people are gonna hate me for saying it, and I know, rogues are gonna be really upset, but look at it, okay? 1.7 speed, super fast, it has 45 DPS, and it has a proc to give you guaranteed crits for 3 seconds. That is your Bloodthirst, that is your whatever, your Revenge, anything can crit guaranteed, your abilities too. So this thing is super freaking busted. And even as an offhander, I would also say, if you are race neutral, if you do not have a weapon racial, this will also be the best offhander in the game, and a very respectable main hander for DPSers too. Actually the best main hander for DPSers if you do not have a weapon racial. Why the weapon racial? Why do I talk about it so much? Because there are several items in vanilla, most of them are from Dire Maul, which is not out yet, but there is also in Molten Core, that give you a weapon racial for daggers, not to mention of course the Edge Masters. So even though you are griefing rogues by taking the Fell Striker, it is very hard to argue that it is not the best weapon in the game for you. It is just insane. Now the first boss, the Pyro Garden Berserker, he also drops a necklace with 1% crit on it that is also really freaking good for you, and it has fire resistance too, which is also very important, because otherwise your fire resistance option is the Onyxia necklace, and that kinda sucks. So at least you get fire resistance and stats this way. And on top of that, he also drops the Wildfire Cape. And getting that fire resistance cap as a tank early on is really freaking hard. Like, I am not gonna do it, miss me with that. You might even be required by your guild to put on a fire resistance, some fire resistance in some fights. Depends how you do things, probably not my case. But you should get it regardless, just in case. Every class should have one of these, they are fairly common. Now there is another boss, the Beast, the Core Hound, of course very famous for dropping that ace that is worth a lot of freaking money. But the Beast also drops this dagger that is important for skinning. Why do you need plus 10 skinning? That's weird. Well, that's for skinning the Core Hounds in Molten Core basically. You need 310 skinning to do it, so... And also it is just an amazing main hander for tank warriors. It is fast, and the faster the better. So this is also another option, a more realistic option, because the Fell Striker is like a 1% chance. Are you gonna get a Fell Striker? Probably freaking not. I hope you do, but you're not. So the Finkel Skinner is also a great alternative, and this is probably something I'm gonna be farming for myself. Unless I get a Fell Striker, that would be sweet. That would be so sweet. Then you got the Blade Master Leggings. These are leather, they got 1% hit, 1% crit, and 2% dodge, which is whatever. But now a lot of people will tell me, and I admit they are right, that the Devil Sword set is better than pants and gloves that I recommended before, and I agree with you. If you got infinite money, if you got infinite resources, you can get the leggings and the gauntlets. They are crafted and they are expensive and they are best in slot. However, I think they are not a wise spending all your money, bang for your buck, because you get 1% crit, 46 attack power, then you get another 1% crit and 28 attack power and 2% hit. Meanwhile, these pants, which are also leather, so they are pretty much the same, you get 1% hit and 1% crit just from the pants alone. and you get 5 agility on top of that, which is pretty nice. And you can also get some gloves that got 2% more hit on it. That's a quest item that I've been talking a lot about. It raffles a bunch of feathers every time I talk about these gloves in here. I take them over the belt every single time in the quest. 2% hit, 9 agility. You get 3% hit in total, pants and gloves, and you get this for free too. It is part of your Onyxia attunement quest that you do in Ubrs. You actually do it in Ubrs and LBRS, and a lot of people get baited because they look at this belt and they think 1% crit, 15 strength, this is insane, and it would be insane. It is the pre-raid best in slot, but 3% freaking hit. So yes, just by doing Ubrs, you can get a set that is comparable to Devil's Sword set for free, so you can actually spend your money on something that actually freaking matters. If you are gonna spend money on gear, buy it on this, okay? Save money for this. It is more expensive, I know, but this is where your money should be. Devil's Sword is a waste of money, in my opinion. It is just not that much better. The Lionheart helmet is more expensive, I know, but if you save money and you pay for this will last you all the way through Blackwing Lair. It is amazing. 2% hit, so it is the same amount of hit and 2% crit. This is where your money should go, because this thing is actually something that's gonna give you way more value for your money. How much do you get by going Devil's Sword instead of Blade Master? It is not enough. It is not enough to justify taking Devil's Sword instead of paying for Lionheart when Lionheart is so insane. So yeah, I get it. If you got infinite money, you don't have to worry about that, but I do not have infinite money, so I am gonna get these pants. And you should too, you should too. The Beast also drops this mace. The 200 mace is also best in slot for humans. Not actually best in slot, there are a couple betters, but this is the best easy to get weapon you can get at level 60 if you're gonna go 200. So if you are a human and your Dal Rends do not drop, this is a very reasonable option. The last boss of Ubers, even though most people do Jed Rend runs, Jed is a rare spawn that got caster gear. We do not care about that. It's a stupid twig that all the casters want. It is not my problem, but you gotta kill it for the casters, and you better get casters, because if you got all melees, they are gonna take your gear. A lot of people do Jed and they do Rend, and then they just reset. They do not go to Drakisat, the last boss in Ubers, but you should also do Drakisat. Drakisat also has insane loot. Drakisat drops this ring with 1% crit on it and 16 attack power. This ring is gonna be one of your best in slot potential rings, so every warrior, tank or not, gotta get Drakisat 2 for this ring. There is also this plate belt with 1% hit on it and 15 strength on top of that, so this will also be super best in slot, because once again, remember, we are not going for the crit belt. I told you before, we're going for the hit gloves in that quest. No crit belt for Medina, we're gonna take the hit belt instead. Deal with it. Amazing belt right here. You're not gonna miss the other belt at all. Then the Draconian Deflector. I just love this shield. So this shield, it is a random blue shield from Drakisat, and it is the best in slot shield all the way into Blackwing Lair 2. There is no better shield in Molten Core. They forgot to put a shield in Molten Core, that's why. So this one also got fire resistance on top of that, which is very nice for Molten Core if you're a tank. Pretty much a perfect shield, so you also gotta get, every warrior should have it. No excuses, it is easy to get. There is also this cloak with 17 agility. It is not the best in slot cloak, but it is a decent cloak. You might as well get it. If you're gonna be farming Ubers all day, you might as well get it. There is a better one in Stratholm. But here's the thing, right? Why is Uber so important? A lot of these items I am showing you, there is a better version of the item somewhere else, like in Stratholm or Skolomens, but Ubers has all of them. Ubers has a decent alternative for almost every slot of your gear as a warrior. And as a fresh character, do you care about the actual best in slot, or do you want to get as much gear as quickly as possible so you can be decent in a raid? That should be your mentality. Instead of getting one best in slot item, you should get 5 almost best in slot items. That is gonna be way more performance for you in a raid. You can worry about the actual best in slot after you farm the Ubers to death. There is also the Breastplate of Valor, which is not best in slot, because once again, BRD Arena has a better one with 2% crit. It has a 2% chance to drop though. So are you gonna farm a 2% item, or are you gonna get this one, which is easy to find? You see the team, you see my point. And finally, to top it all off in something super freaking cool, the Black Blade of Sharram. This is a two-hander with a DPS of 60. The sword in Molten Core has a DPS of 64, okay? And this one is 60, so it is almost as good. The proc is insane, it buffs everybody, it is an amazing proc. It's like a ghost that comes in and gives you a buff. As you can see, the drop rate is 1%. Can you rely that this sword is gonna drop for you? Can you plan for it? No. But if you're a human, or if you do not have a weapon racial and it drops, call it a gift of God, okay? You should definitely, if you get this weapon, there are very few weapons that can beat this in raw DPS, even if it is not a weapon racial for you. I am a Tolen, right? If I get this sword, I am going two-handers. Screw my plans. Screw my plans of going daggers, you know? And if you are casually doing Ubrs all the time, this is the great part about Ubrs, right? I call it the Holy Trinity. You got the Black Blade, of course, you got the Dull Rend swords, and you got the Fell Striker. It doesn't matter which one you get. As long as you get one of them at some point, you are set. You are free, you are done. You can make your build around any of them. If you get a Fell Striker, you get a crappy dagger from wherever. There is a BOE one, the Scarlet Kreese you can get, and then you're a dagger warrior. If you're a tank, you can get the Fell Striker, of course, for that. If you're a tank, you can get Dull Rends with the two weapons, a dual wield tank, or you can just DPS with Dull Rends. And if you get the Black Blade, you can just two-hander DPS. Two-hander is a real spec, by the way. Two-hander is actually a little better when you are in Prives. And this goes to my point about Ubers once again. If you farm Ubers, even if it is not the best, even if it is not what you are planning to get, you are almost always gonna get something. As a fresh character, Ubers is the best place to farm. And in a day or two, I am gonna be living in Ubers for the rest of my life. Subscribe, join the Discord, and thank you for watching.